The most widely published book in human history reveals that we are created in the image of God. Throughout our human journey, each encounter is an opportunity to see the shared humanity in ourselves and others. Regardless of one's views on religion, each experience and each story weaves us together towards a common path. A path of transformation, a process of growth and understanding, a recognition that, at our core, we share a common destiny. What does the search for truth really mean in our lives? How can we find a sense of unity in a world so diverse and divided? As we reflect on these questions, we start to uncover a fundamental connection that binds us all beyond our differences. Welcome to Created in the Image of God, Building Vibrant Communities, with our host, Wade Franson. Tonight's episode is the Book of Ruth in the Digital Age.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Created in the Image of God. We have an amazing guest for you this evening. We're going to talk about the Book of Ruth. And I've looked at this book numerous times. I actually had it performed at a wedding, and a song from it, where you I will follow. So I'm familiar with it. But I met this amazing woman who has dedicated her life to looking at the book of Ruth from a very unique perspective. And let's just welcome her into the studio and get right into this topic. Nikki Anarado, CEO, founder of Prepare to Be Pursued, has dedicated her life at this stage to helping women understand and apply the secrets of the Book of Ruth in their dating life. Welcome, Nikki.
Thank you for having me.
It's certainly my pleasure.
Excited to be here.
I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversations preparing for and leading up to this show. We'll get into the meat of this topic in a little bit, but as we always like to do on the show, we like to get to know the real you first. We have the title of Created in the Image of God. Each of us has our own creation story. As we sought to understand the purpose for which we were put here on the earth, we like to go deep into your background and understand what it was like for you growing up as a little girl, your parents, the environment, the forces that shaped you before you took conscious thought on who you would be today. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I was born in Knoxville, Tennessee. My parents are immigrants from Nigeria. And so I'm a first generation African-American here. Grew up in Maryland. All right. So very familiar with the DMV area. In my upbringing, it was a clash between two cultures, right? And so finding my identity in this space when at home, we have a certain culture, and then out in the public, there's a whole nother experience to adjust to. So over time, I did have complications finding out who I was, who God created me to be. Very shy as a young girl because I didn't understand how things were done, but over time, I found the importance of having confidence in who you are. And it took me many years, well into my adulthood, to find out that that's something that I could find for myself in seeking God's face and understanding who he designed me to be. And although I was shy and kind of loved to support people, even to my own detriment at times, those are qualities that are really serving me today. I just had to understand how to move in the world. So overcoming bullying and just mistreatment over time, it really led me to dive into who I was, recognizing that God put me here for a reason, and I just to figure out what that was.
Well, wow. I didn't realize that your parents were from Nigeria. We hadn't talked about that. I wanted to be surprised by who you are, and here I am surprised. So how old were your parents, and were they did they adapt well to American themselves, or did they carry on and want to have you experience a lot of the traditions that they had from their homeland?
Yeah, it's always an adjustment. My parents were in their 30s when they came here, and shortly after they came here, I was born. It was an adjustment, but of course I was a child learning that. But my mom, no longer with us, unfortunately. She was a special education teacher.
Sorry.
She was in that field for about 35 years. Thank you for that. My dad is still with us. He is a retired business owner. And so I learned a lot about having your own business and things like that, and how to nurture a business from supporting him as I was growing up as well. So, yeah.
Wonderful. And so about that culture, did they carry some of their traditions? Did they want to like adapt very much to American life, or did they want to retain some of that identity that they had from Nigeria? Speaking of Nigeria, here's a little lion, Licorice, our cat, my daughter's cat.
Hi there. But yes, they really did want to retain some of the cultures for sure.
Yeah. So was that
a delay? I don't know if you're.
Yeah, I'm experiencing a little bit of a delay. It's not too bad on my end, but I really want to know a little bit more about how that was for you then as an American, adapting and fitting in, because you have multiple cultures now. You've got your culture from Nigeria, and here in the United States, there's maybe one culture that's distinct in various parts of the African American community. I'm not sure how it is up in Maryland, did you say? But and then there's maybe the culture of the whites, depending on how separated they may be in the community you grew up in. How did you navigate through some of that as a young girl, and how did that affect you?
So that's really a great question. I was very fortunate to have parents that had experiences with multiple cultures just through their life. Having gone to school and gotten both their masters at University of Tennessee, it was diverse then. And so by the time we moved over to the East Coast, we just had, a lot of input of how to navigate those things. I was mostly raised in the African American community, but as I raised my daughter, who is now 24, we were in a very diverse upper Northern Maryland community. And so in that, it's just, just having confidence in who you are and learning how to adjust in any situation. One thing that was very prominent in our household was just having pride in ourselves and knowing who we are and helping people understand who we are, rather than kind of being impacted by the assumptions folks might have.
Yeah.
So that really served me well over time.
Awesome. So in terms of dating, to get into that topic a little bit, I have no idea what the dating world is like in Nigeria, the ideas and attitudes of your parents and how they may have and did you have siblings growing up?
Yes, I have siblings. I have 3 siblings. And so, yes, it's a strikingly different culture. And that's part of what I struggled with growing up, because there was a certain expectation that my parents had for the 2 younger siblings that were born here versus the 2 older siblings that were really enmeshed in the culture, in the Nigerian culture, in the Nigerian way. So finding my way, knowing how to date in a way that honored my own desires versus the stringent kind of setup of the Nigerian or Igbo, way of doing things. I didn't value it in my youth. I really didn't. I didn't value it. I didn't understand why it was so strict. I didn't understand why things were done in such a traditional way. But as I've gotten older, and particularly through the work that I do right now, I see the value in kind of infusing some of those things into today's way of doing things. And as my mom used to always tell me when I began to do this work before she passed, she encouraged me because she said that the culture that they were raised in is very different even in Nigeria right now. So it's across the board. People all over the world are struggling in this area of life, for sure.
Well, and so when you began to become interested in the Book of Ruth, I'm getting a little ahead of the story, but I think in this
Mhm.
context, I want to ask this.
Mhm.
Um,
Sure.
that represents a very different culture, right? The sort of dating between Ruth and Boaz, and the expectations
Mhm.
that Naomi had. Not that we'll get into the details of who these people are in a minute or after the next break, but
Right.
that was very different. Did the
Mhm.
fact that you come from a different culture, because I think your viewpoint is really unique and fascinating, that you went into the Book of Ruth and you asked different questions
Mhm.
and you read it through a different lens and you drew deep from the well of lessons in that book in ways that other people haven't even thought to do. So I'm just trying to,
Mhm. Yeah.
this is why I go into people's backgrounds to kind of understand the inner
Yeah.
workings of how you got to this place where you've mined this book and gotten such value out of it.
So there's a few influences. I think, yes, seeing things from a different lens because of my upbringing. But then it's also a course that I took about 10 years ago at the church I was attending at the time, which helped us understand the context of the Book of
Yeah.
Ruth. So that was a huge education. So that then where that led me after that, understanding the traditions of the time and what the symbolism meant, it caused me to think about, okay, what are some parallels to today where we can create ways of going about things, women positioning themselves, how they're communicating to men, how they're feeling about themselves, how they're showing up in this area of their life without fear. All those things Ruth did very, very smoothly and clearly in, the results of that. So and then also the patterns that I saw in my own walk, and then also in the walk of the women that I work with, these are things that actually get results, and these are things that probably would not get results.
Well, one more question before we go to the commercial break. This is from the audience. I
Yeah,
thought we should go ahead and ask it now.
sure.
From Stella, wants to know if you went to college and where. So, what about your own education as you were, becoming a young adult?
Yeah, I went to the University of Maryland, College Park, and my focus there was in IT. I didn't complete it. So part of my story is not complete. I'm not an academic. I never claimed to be, although I talk in academic forums and things like that. That isn't my calling, right? So yeah, after that, I've had many, many experiences that led me to this work. Many experiences where God really changed my life and I recommitted myself to God and then started focusing on this calling.
Well, let me dig
So
into that too, right before we go to the break. So, you say rededicated. So, was there a point in time where you sort of moved away from God and religion, but you've come back? Tell us a little bit about that.
right. I mean, I was always a believer, right? But there are times I think in any person's life where there is doubt, where there's pressure, where there's confusion. And so yeah, that existed a lot in my 20s. I think majority of my 20s, I kind of found myself in that wilderness. But my mom was an evangelist. We always understood, our belief system and things like that. So it wasn't that difficult to bring me back. But yeah, there was a time where things were difficult, and I questioned my purpose in life and who I was, and and kind of resisted the pressure of being, you know, not good enough
Hmm,
or not
yeah.
worthy. Just kind of feeling, how do you measure up? How do I get along in the direction that God is leading me? So yes, sometimes there are those dark times.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your early background. And I think we're up to date with going into the commercial break, which is a little video about you and what you're doing. When we come back, we'll
Right.
dig into that work. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back with more of Nikki Anarado, CEO and founder of Prepare to Be Pursued.
Nikki Anarado is a dating preparation coach and emotional strategist who helps mature women rediscover themselves, strengthen their social presence, and create emotionally rich connections without losing their identity. As the founder and CEO of Prepare to Be Pursued, Nikki has spent over a decade guiding high-achieving, spiritually grounded women through one of life's most vulnerable transitions, dating again after years devoted to family, career, or healing from heartbreak and loss. Her coaching combines guilt-informed care, emotional intelligence, and biblical wisdom, equipping women to move from survival mode to relational readiness. With her signature, Make Room for Boaz challenge, Nikki empowers women to release shame, rebuild confidence, and welcome love with clarity and self-trust.
There's that QR code if anyone wants to see. Let me see if I have, no, we don't have that separately. I might play that video again a little bit later and give people an opportunity to catch that. Well, welcome back. We're here with Nikki Anarado, and you've just seen a little video about her. So tell us the story of how you got into this field. What were the life circumstances that led to that?
Yeah. So after realizing that there was a change, like I really needed to start doing things a bit differently in my personal life, my personal walk. Part of that was getting into some of my passions, which was always relationships. And so that came upon me in my early 30s. And so I would host a group. I hosted a group. It was called the Relationship Forum, right when Facebook was getting going and things like that. And it so many variety of different perspectives about how people come to find each other, some of the struggles women and men are having while they're dating and things like of that nature. And it really just opened up so much. And I began to host events. I began to be asked to moderate other events where there were discussions about relationships. And through all that, that was just fun. I mean, I was in corporate America, in business development in corporate America. And this was just something to do, a hobby. But then so many people will come to me and tell me that, Nikki, we love your perspective. Like, why do more things? And I'm like, do more what? I didn't understand what could have been made out of this at all. And until one day I hosted an event where I brought on therapists and I brought on, the academics and things like that, right? Because I'm like, who am I? I don't know what I'm talking about. Let me get these brilliant people on the panel. And in doing that, one of these brilliant people pulled me to the side and told me, just based on the way that I structured it and based on the way that I asked everyone to speak on certain topics, he said to me, the next time I see you, I want you to be certified as a coach. You need to be doing this professionally. And that guy, we're still friends to this day, Jewish guy, Red Rivers High. And we've since then done projects together. But that was the end all be all, because I've heard it enough at that point. And I looked into it and I measured it against professional journey, which wasn't a bad, way. I wasn't doing too bad in corporate. And this new, exciting, fresh, confusing, nerve-wracking, totally, I don't know what this path holds area, So I really gave it up to God. I honestly did. And the moment that I said yes, because it was clear that, this was the path to begin to take. I didn't just quit my job immediately. I'm not crazy. But once I got that confirmation from God, literally within that same week, I was offered a position that was closer to home that would have really made it very easy for me to navigate a full-time job, raising my daughter, and also starting this business. Wonderful. And so, for 2 years, I was doing that and then became full-time in 2020 in my business.
Wonderful. So I want to dig in now a little more deeply into the Book of Ruth. How about we have you tell the story for our audience.
Yeah.
They may or may not. We actually had somebody on. I'll just flash this up real quick. This is another book about the Book of Ruth, When Hope Comes, Donna Ost. We had, I don't know if you've ever read that book. We had her on the show some months ago, and I'd kind of forgotten about it. But her approach was very different, right? It was, more the spiritual angle. And so tell us briefly the story of Ruth from your perspective, from your, the work that you're doing, which is a different take on it.
Yeah, I think so. That's the feedback that I always get. So I'm always going to come from a very, 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 very practical side of things, so that and as I go along with the story, I'm going to try my best to kind of plug in what that means for today. So what it meant then and what it can mean for today. All right, so starting in chapter 1, without going line by line, in chapter 1 of who Naomi is, who Ruth is, and how they're all, kind of related. So Naomi and Ruth are related because Naomi is Ruth's mother-in-law. Okay, they Naomi and her 2 sons and Naomi's husband had to flee from Bethlehem to Moab. Okay, because Jerusalem, because there was famine in the land. Okay, so Naomi and her entire family of Elimelech moved from one side of the land to another in Moab. And Moab was not did not believe in our God, essentially, So it was a foreign land. They got adjusted. Time, unfortunately, all the men. Okay, the 2 sons were married to Ruth and Orpah. Okay, so those 3 widows, in deep sorrow, trying to figure out what's next. They all lost their husbands in Moab. Ruth was of Moab. Orpah was of Moab. Naomi understood that there's no survival there for her, because in those times, women depended heavily, 100%, usually on the men that they were married to. And so in this case, Naomi had to go back home, and she knew it. She had to go back to Bethlehem. She heard that things turned around. There's no longer famine. And she begged her daughters-in-law, I love you, but please go back to your parents' house. I can't give you any more sons. I'm too old. You guys are better off going back to your parents' house and try. You're young enough to try again. And in that, Orpah went home. She said, okay, see ya. Love you, bye. But Ruth was solidly committed to Naomi. I like to assume it's because of the relationship that they got. She was her daughter-in-law. So as in chapter 1, I'm just going to read what Ruth declared. Entreat me not to leave you or to turn back from following after you. For wherever you go, I will go, and wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. The Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts you me. She was totally committed to Naomi. I have to assume it's because, again, the relationship that they had and the trust that she put into Naomi, even though Ruth was not raised with the same belief or following the same God. So that's basically chapter 1. All right. And then chapter 2 goes into,
if I may just
how it.
If I may just interject one comment here, and I know we have a tiny bit of a lag, but and that is, it never occurred to me so deeply, the whole immigrant thing, right? The whole stranger in a strange land, and that this relationship, who knows who Naomi and Orpah were in their own country as to marrying the sons of this foreign woman from Israel. And the different the Moabites were looked down upon by the Israelites, and probably vice versa. So they were already the relationship between Ruth and Naomi would have also been formed by that kind of a relationship where she was bonding with a woman who was kind of the outcast, the outsider. And it was a deep, close personal bond that was expressed by those words.
100%. 100%. And so because then in chapter 2, here comes Ruth coming into now Naomi's homeland, right? And so back to Bethlehem to try to figure life out. Naomi is a very advanced in age. Is said that Ruth at this age probably in her 40s, and so that will place Naomi maybe in her 60s, 60s, 70s, so she's very upset. She doesn't believe that she can, have another husband. She's not even looking for that, right? She's just like, look, my life is over. I've lost my husband. I've lost my children. Thank God she had Ruth, because Ruth definitely gave her a reason to be excited about life. So in chapter 2, it begins with Ruth's declaration to Naomi that she is going to leave the house to find favor. Okay, so it literally said, please let me go to the field and glean heads of grain after him in whose sight I might find favor. And so that is literally chapter 2, verse 2. That's a secret right there, ladies. That's a secret. Okay, the secret in that is she is leaving the house to seek favor. She's not necessarily seeking a man, but she understands that the favor that she seeks, it will come from a man. She understands that. She's going to a field not to work a 9-to-5 job like many people think or have been taught. No, she's going to glean. Gleaning, I learned in that Bible class I told you about. Gleaning is taking the leftovers. It's like asking permission to beg on someone's field to get the grains that fall from the people working there to harvest the grains. So she's asking to beg on someone's field. I just want to get favor. Can you just let me just come there and get some for free? Because we are, without covering. Okay. And so the way that this plays out, ultimately, of course, she gets the favor. What's amazing about this also is she goes out, she bops around the fields until someone lets her in. And so Boaz's main servant, I think is what he's called, right? Okay, lets her into the field so she can glean from the field. Okay, so she's doing that all day. Eventually, Boaz notices her. Okay, so she has interactions with one of Boaz's lead servants, right? Which allows her to get on the field to glean. Boaz notices her and she sticks out like a sore thumb. She's not of that land. He does not recognize her. And so he asks his woman that this belong, who does she belong to? Okay. Also telling to the time, because just not out and about without a man there, without someone claiming them, right? So what is she doing here? Who's that? And then the servant informs him where she came from. She's caring for her mother-in-law, Naomi. She's asked to glean from the field. She's been working all day tirelessly. She's very humble. She's presenting herself in a very delightful way. And so with that, Boaz is delighted by that information. And then here comes the approach. Then he approaches Ruth. So you can see this. Then Boaz said to Ruth, first words Boaz ever said to Ruth is, "You will listen, my daughter, will you not?" Okay. Daughter is typical in that time frame. He was much older than Ruth. It's been said that he was of advanced age. And so But the really special thing about that is he's asking her before he even says anything to her of substance. He's asking, are you going to listen? Like there's a reason why he's asking. Okay, so maybe I'll just ask you, Wade, why do you think a man of prominence, that will be the first thing that he's asking a strange woman that he's never met? Why do you think that he would ask that?
That's really a great question. I'm a little bit puzzled myself. I mean, obviously, he's wondering if this is a woman who, has a good head on her shoulders and is willing to learn, maybe.
Absolutely, I agree. I totally agree. Because guess what happens? Right after he asks that, maybe she signals, yes, I'll listen. He goes into blessing her. Boom, 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 boom. You're good. You're good here. I want you to do this. Don't glean in another field, he says. Stay here close to my young women that are here. Let your eyes be on the field which they reap, and he's letting her know that she can trust him. Like, look, I've told my young men to leave you alone. You're safe here. Okay. And what's beautiful about this, all these blessings he's telling her, he even invites her to lunch where she doesn't even belong there, but he does all of this without any romantic intent. There's nothing here that says that he had eyes for her or she was particularly beautiful, anything like that. It was, and then guess what she does? He blesses her, saying, you don't have to worry about food, water, anything. You're good here. Stay here and you're good. And she responds with such humility. She falls on her face, bows down. This is a little extra for today's time, but it was appropriate.
Yeah.
It was appropriate at the time. If you think about their position, they had no man, no covering. They were pretty much destitute. And her in particular, she's very grateful because she's not of this land at all. She's like, you don't even know who I am. I don't deserve this. I don't know the culture or anything. And you're blessing me like this. So her appreciation matches the level of gifting that she was given, And so he then responds and lets her know that, look, this is why I'm giving you all these coverings. This is why. And he lets her know all the virtues that he noticed about her. You can read that in verse 11, okay? In 12 and 13. He just goes on and on about what he's noticing about her and the reasons why he chose to cover her. And so later in that chapter, she goes home and let's not only know everything that she experienced, not only being the wiser one that had more experience and exposure, let her know that, whoa, he did all those things. Now we got an opportunity here. Let's sit down and figure this thing out now. Like, you need to do everything this man told you to do. You can trust him. He is related to us. And so at that time, the king's kinsman redeemer was a tradition that if a woman lost her husband, that the next in line that's qualified to marry her will be the closest single relative, male relative in the family. And so not only being wise and kind of knowing her homeland, she knew that he was related to her deceased husband. Okay. And so she lets Ruth know these things, and then we get into chapter 3.
Can I just jump in and add something real quick here? One of the things that I'm loving about this is I'm a geek, right? I studied ancient Israelite history. I was on the City of David archaeological expedition. This era, I spent deep study in this over decades. But you're bringing out new aspects, which is awesome. One of the things I want to highlight, though, this subject of gleaning. You described it beautifully, but it wasn't actually begging. It was really hard work, right? It was really hard work because she had to follow along and she had to do the work. It wasn't being given to her. She was being given permission
Yes.
to do the hard work,
Yes.
collecting the leftovers. So she was working her
Yes.
butt off, right? And probably one
Yes.
of the virtues that he was seeing, but she wasn't
Yes.
familiar with all the aspects of the culture, which Naomi was teaching her about, so wonderfully. And one of the lessons there is just, you mentioned adaptability, the willingness to adapt to the prevailing culture, right? And not to like fight or howl against the wind against how it's wrong and unjust. I mean, don't get me wrong. We need to always improve. But the culture of ancient Israel provided for this gleaning as a way to help the poor. But they were helped by being allowed. You were supposed to not fully harvest your field. You were supposed to leave the corners of your field. You weren't supposed to like go and harvest every inch. You were supposed to leave some grain standing so that people could glean, so that they could come onto your property and do this. But I don't know if you're planning to get into this, but Boaz instructed some of his servants later to let a little bit extra fall for her, right? To give her even more.
Leave some extra.
I just wanted to share that she was learning how to work within the culture, not coming in and telling everybody that what they were doing was wrong.
And with such humility, and it absolutely was hard work as it was described, for sure. It's just a humility of knowing that she needed help. She left the house seeking favor. You don't seek favor if you feel like you got it all together. So understanding where there were gaps in her life, and then understanding that, okay, a man might be able to help me with this, So sometimes that's step one in regards to encouraging women to open themselves up to dating. Understand how a man can really make a difference in your life. How could it enrich your life? That doesn't come against what you've already built or how wonderful your life already is. It's not in conflict with that. It enrich, if you're clear about what you want, how to get it, And so in chapter 3, it really gets into that. How to get it.
Yeah. Do you want to go ahead and share a little bit then of chapter 3?
Yes. We can get into that now. And so, Naomi gives her guidance on how to now approach Boaz. And in this interaction that she's basically coaching have with Boaz, this, just looking at the word, is the first, from my assessment, time that anything romantic or anything marriage-minded is introduced into their dynamic. So up until this time, Ruth has already gleaned on the field for the entirety of the harvest season, so weeks, months, and so she's had discipline, she's been obedient, and so Naomi is encouraging her to, okay, now's the time to go to Boaz at a time where he is receptive. He go after he's eaten and he's had and he's good to go. He's probably receptive to conversation. It instructs her on what to do, how to prepare, wash your face, do this, all these steps. Okay, and it's important to understand the implications of these preparation points. And so Naomi went through those steps with her to help make sure that she will be successful with this. And so in her approach to Boaz, part of the conversation included her informing Boaz that they are related and how they're related, okay? Not by blood, but by marriage. And, she lost her husband. So through the kinsman redeemer, tradition, they becoming married. And he was very receptive. And what's beautiful about his response in chapter 3, I think is verse 11, what's beautiful about the response is he is this big time, biggest, bachelor of the whole land, apparently. And she is a woman of another land, is truly needing support and needing help, is very obvious. And he thanks her for choosing him, which is amazing, because in this day and age, a lot of women don't have that experience. Okay, it's really like, you'll be lucky if you get a man kind of stuff, rather than this, where this man is like, I don't care what you have, what you don't have. You're clearly a virtuous woman. I'll be lucky to have you, and he literally says it in here, describes the reason why he's so enamored with her and honored that she's looking at him. He lists all the other types of men she could have gone with. So it's right here in chapter 10 and 11. You can read it. It's right there. He says you could have gone with younger. You could have gone with the more fit guys. All these other guys, and you're choosing me. And so it was great. And he just continued to pour into her, cover her, make sure she was good, that she went back home to Naomi with additional, food and supplies and things like that. And he promised her that he would do the next steps that are required in the tradition. Okay, he has to go back to his family, and they have to do this ceremony for it to be known if he's actually the first person in line to marry her. And yeah, he look, there's someone else that is closer to you and the closer to your mom's lineage. So I have to find out if it's okay for me to marry you. Okay, so he promised her that he'll do that, sends her back home to Naomi. Naomi gets word and instructs her, all right, don't do anything. Let him do his thing. He is going to take care of you. Okay, it's going to work out. By the end of today, you'll get your answer. For Naomi to have that level of confidence just really shows that it makes sense for Ruth to probably have had some doubt or confusion. Like, oh my God, oh, my life might change. Oh, what's going on? So sitting in the gray area is a lot of what I work with women in. Sometimes there will be some uncertainty. And so far, there's no talk about someone saw an image of God, or that there was the whole, like no angel descended from above. There's parts in the Bible where that happens. I think it makes sense. I think there's a reason why that isn't here in all 4 verses. This is 100% practical, 100% practical story, And so I just think it's beautiful how this is literally just focused on some of what we talked about, the mystery of how 2 people come together. Is when you really look at it, it's quite natural,
Yeah, allow me, going into the break here, allow me to read that verse that I shared with you earlier from Proverbs chapter 30. Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived, although people question that because he had 300 wives and 700 concubines. Doesn't sound very wise, but anyway, the point is, in Proverbs chapter 30, verse 18, he documents, I think these are sayings of somebody he knew. They weren't his sayings, they were the sayings of Agar, but he recorded them. There are 3 things that are too amazing for me, 4 that I do not understand. The way of an eagle in the sky, the way of a snake on a rock, the way of a ship on the high seas, and the way of a man with a young woman, right? The only thing supernatural in this story that you're telling is how fairy tale-ish it sort of works out. But what you're saying is, no, it's completely natural, completely practical, principles, time tested, proven over the centuries across cultures. Principles were being used by Ruth. Boaz was a good man. He was honorable. He was following the laws and traditions of his country. There are differences. They're from different countries and different situations, but here they come together. and they're both virtuous, right? Proverbs 30 is followed by Proverbs 31, that famous virtuous woman chapter, right? That when I was
Yes.
in young men studying theology, we were looking for a Proverbs 31 woman, right? So, you know, I know that may not be the TikTok generation or the Instagram generation, but we wanted a Proverbs 31. But they were two
Mhm.
virtuous people, and here they found each other, and there's the magic, but it's immensely practical. And I love, love, love how you are bringing that out.
Well, thank you. It's really just God. Honestly, I saw this in a fresh new way at a season of my life where I was intensely curious about this. How can we make the word come to life in our real everyday life? And it is happening every single day with the women I work with, for sure. They are applying some of these principles, although it's not easy, because society will tell you it's not possible. Society will tell you there's no
Yeah.
more honorable men, you know?
Well, and there's a lot there that goes against conventional wisdom and what you got to do today, given the media, given the distractions, given the way men are, all the things we could list. No,
Mhm.
trust in God and stand in awe. One of my favorite
Yeah,
sayings, right?
absolutely,
Um,
absolutely.
so we're going to go to a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to dig in a little bit more about the success you're having and where you're going next. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more of Nikki Anarado, CEO and founder of Prepare to Be Pursued. Welcome back to Creating the Image of God with Nikki Anarado. We've just completed a review of the Book of Ruth. We didn't actually get to the conclusion though, right? And to just quickly go there, Boaz has this interesting sort of almost sneaky way of getting Ruth's next of kin to decide, no, 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 I don't want her.
Mhm.
And he basically a little tricky and sneaky in how he makes sure that he and Ruth end up together, which is very clever, right? We won't spoil the story.
Yeah.
And then there's this beautiful analogy with spiritual overtones, but I love that we've kept it real here. So now, have you written a
Yes.
book? How do people? There was that QR code, but how do people get in touch with you? And I'm going to put that right
Yes.
now in the chat for everybody across all the channels. To learn more and get
Yes.
more detail.
Absolutely. You can go to prepare to be pursued, all spelled out.com, or you can find me on Linktree. And you can just put my name in, Nikki Anarado. It'll pop right up. There you go.
Is it link or link
And yes,
Linktree?
oh, it's okay. It's kind of weird. It isn't spelled the same way that
Yeah, it's like
I'll put it in the
linked.re. I
chat.
saw in the video there or something.
Yes, it's a little different. So just a quick second, I'll get to that. But yeah, there's several ways. Make room for Boaz.com, all spelled out. That's a way to get into an automated challenge where you'll be taken through the Book of Ruth there as well. Okay. So yeah, it's linktr.ee/Nikki Anarado.
forward slash, not backslash. Where's the forward slash? Or is it backslash maybe?
Mhm.
And is Nikki Anarado one word on that? Probably.
Yes, it is. Mhm.
So it's that one.
Yep,
I
that's right.
think I got that right. All right.
Yeah, it
Well,
looks
cool.
right.
So tell us a little bit about the dynamic. Do you hold workshops? You work with women
Yeah,
individually? How does all that work?
absolutely. We have a little bit of everything. We have one-on-one coaching, group coaching. We do retreats. I do virtual workshops quite often. I'll be in Los Angeles in October doing an in-person workshop. More information of that will be available soon. Right now, like this weekend, I'm headed to Dallas and Oklahoma City to see a couple of my clients. I'll help them explore the social scene of their city. Many people have been in their city for 10, 15 years and haven't met anybody new. So we do a lot of social development work.
Wait, you're just traveling around the country checking out the party scenes of
Oh,
everywhere.
no, not party scenes.
Horrible.
That's not
Horrible job.
that's not where we go. We don't go to the parties. No, it's very strategic placement. You have to place yourself and play in environments where you will want to be seen by individuals that are like-minded.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah.
So give me a couple of examples of the appropriate social scene. And I'm just joking,
Oh,
obviously,
it's okay.
but a couple of examples of the appropriate social scenes in those cities.
It all depends on who you're compatible with, right? And so by the time that we get there to explore social scene, we do a lot of work together to understand who you're best compatible with, and then where that type of gentleman will likely be. All right. And so there's certain industries that are very likely to attract certain types of personality types or attributes. Okay, so it kind of really just depends on what comes up when a woman explores that in detail. That's work we do together. But some examples of that, just to kind of give you a broad view, are expos, conferences, seminars, some sporting events in some instances, but I don't always recommend that because in that setting, people are just kind of like focused on sport. But going where men have to be, and just being curious about their life and asking questions, it really, really goes a long way.
Yeah, makes total sense. I can see it. I can see it in my mind's eye. It's awesome.
And it's
That's
super
really
fun.
awesome. Yeah, wow. That's so cool. I mean, it is just amazing the path you've found, right? So do you want to share a particular success story with all names, of course, being changed in personal details? Any success story you want to share?
Absolutely. We have several. Since last year, we had 4 weddings. So, and then I just got word that one of my clients got engaged last week. So, and these women shared their experience. Thank you. These women shared their experiences quite openly. And there might be other connections. And I just found out someone that I knew that's in my group. She just got married today. I just got the notification. So it's happening at all times. Some women want their results sooner than others. Some are really focusing on other areas of their life, but at the same time want to become more social. So it really kind of depends on what a woman's goals are. Is it social goals or is it romantic goals? And yeah, the results are there. It's just a matter of getting rid of the fear, getting rid of the kind of misguided mindsets that unfortunately this society today, is employing. So I guess one example could be, let's choose one example, the woman that got married or got engaged last week. So I met her through a personal development seminar. Okay. And I shared what I did and everything. I'm trying to figure out some things about myself to be a better leader. And she's there and heard what I did and was enamored by what I did. And she was like, I need to be a part of whatever you're doing. And so we connected. And over time, she became a client. and she was just wonderful. Okay, delightful young lady, and from Columbus, Ohio. I don't want to put too much information out there though. But she was great, and she became very clear the things that she wanted to overcome, which included choosing the wrong partner. Okay, she had a very bad breakup. And she knows that she wants children. She does not want to waste her time. But she is concerned about her ability to discern a good match for her, and then also to heal from the past that she unfortunately experienced. And so we worked on that. Part of that was getting her life to an excited place so that she can feel confident while she's dating, because there were some things about her career and family dynamics that was making it pretty difficult to put herself out there. So we took time to work through those things. And then when she was ready to put herself out there, that's where the VIP day came into play. And so we had a VIP day. I came to her city. I helped her explore her city. And yeah, during that weekend, that is where she met her now fiance.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
So I'm going to skip the last commercial break here, just because this has been so fascinating. We're running out of time, which is totally fine. Sorry to whoever's ad isn't going to get played. We'll make it up to you. But I got a couple of questions here that I want to make sure we get in before the end. And they're really related to, they're the same. I think this is a misspelling, but Emily Fletcher, do you feel like you relate to Ruth? And if so, in what way? I'm really curious. And there was another similar question. Nikki sounds like she has a big heart, from Nathan Chandler. I'd like to hear how similar her life is to Ruth's. So people want to know about you and your own relationship with the Ruth.
So that's actually one of the questions in the Make Room for Boaz challenge. As women go into the word for themselves and look at it, did they see any similarities to Ruth? Do you pick up any of her attributes? And I never thought about that for myself, but being asked this, I directly can relate to her boldness and her curiosity and her like, I'm going. I don't have a lot of confusion about that. Once it's clear that this is where I need to be, I'm just gonna go. And so my obedience in that way, I would have to say.
Well, yeah, it makes sense because Jesus said, knock and it shall be open, ask and you shall receive. And, I guess it is a trait, maybe it's part of society, or maybe it's part of temperament or whatever. But, some women are, oh, no, I don't want to ask that. Whereas a guy marches in where angels fear to tread. Not all. Everyone, there's great diversity within men and within women. But yeah. Mm-hmm. So one more question then, or comment. I want to know a little bit about this from Suga. The Make Room for Boaz challenge is fascinating and eye-opening. What is fascinating and eye-opening about that?
Oh my God. Yeah. These must be some of my ladies that joined here. They must have. Yeah. So, and I saw Denise, shout out to Denise. She's one of my elite lore ladies. Love her. And I'm going to be seeing her this week. So, yeah. What's fascinating about it, the feedback that I get is, my goodness, I'm seeing things very, very different now. Very different. So this 5-day challenge can just reshape and reframe and get rid of the bad gook about all what you're seeing about what the dating scene is out here. It does not have to be your reality. So what the Make Room for Boaz does is just start to realign your mindset so that you can experience something very, 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 very different than what you've experienced before. I've had clients that have been married 1 time, 2 times. And they tell me, and this is a shock to me, I did not know this was a thing. They tell me they've never been on a quality date, although they've been married twice, most of their adult life. And so that's a shame. Let us not do this, okay? There are ways where you can have quality experiences with men. You really can, and not have to sacrifice, your beliefs or your value system. So in that, day 1, we talk about how to make love a priority. Okay, because that's a thing. Busy women that have accomplished some things. Sometimes it's hard to make this something that you're really dedicated to figuring out for yourself. In day 2, we get into the connection killers. These are 5 mindsets that if a woman has, unfortunately, dating will be complicated for you, okay? And when you figure out what those 5 are, you'll go back to the Book of Ruth and see that she didn't have any of these mindsets. It's very clear in her behavior. And the next 2, day 3 and 4, so we kind of spit through it today. But if you want us to go line by line now, we do that over those 2 days, okay? And then finally on day 5, we kind of sum everything up, and you'll understand how you can apply some of what we're talking about to your life specifically.
And Tanya wants to know how do we get involved? Is it those links you gave me earlier? How does one get involved with the Make Room for Boaz challenge?
Yes, sir. So the Linktree link, you'll see everything, including the Make Room for Boaz challenge. It's an automated challenge. Once you get in there, you just jump in there and it will be personalized directly to you. And you can also just look it up, makeroomforboaz.com as well. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I'm going to type that in the chat right now, makeroomforboaz.com.
Yeah. I think it's
so we are
.com/join, actually. I think there's a little bit of a but if the link will work if you go to the Linktree and find the there you go. I think that should work. But either way, you'll be able to find it.
Well, sadly, this date is over from a time perspective, but I've really, really enjoyed our time together, and would love to, follow up with you. Can I get your number? I'd love to follow up with you and learn more about what you're doing. I am happily married, but yes. No, nobody in the audience go crazy here. But I'm just really grateful that you took the time tonight to be with us and to share all this with the audience. What would you like to leave the audience with and me with tonight as last thoughts, whether men or women? You're speaking a lot to women, but maybe I should ask at the end. Let me change it. What do you want to tell the men?
Oh, first thing I want to tell the men, because I've heard a lot of feedback that they're disillusioned by the idea of dating and how to connect with a woman. Unfortunately, there's just not a lot of resources out there that help men have confidence in this. My message to men is you are worthy to be loved, okay? And you just have to know that. You have to know that before you attempt to connect with any woman, all right? Because that's unfortunately where the bad connections come in, is if the confidence isn't there. But it is possible. There are wonderful, delightful, beautiful women out there that are ready and seeking a man and desire to play an important role in your life. So just know it's possible.
Thank you so much, Nikki. And there you have it. It's a wrap. The only thing I have left to do, just make sure I have this here, is play the sneak peek for next week's show. And I think actually we're going to play the sneak peek for this Sunday show. Some of the audience don't know that we've launched a second instance of Creating the Image of God. So it's now airing twice a week. That's one way we got to whatever it is, 169 already. The episodes are rolling out. There's so many fascinating people, and we're so happy to be sharing their stories and introducing them to you. But Sunday mornings at 7 a.m. Central Time, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, because we're doing this partially for the Clearwater Baha'i channel to give them a second set of content from us. They're one of our biggest fans, and we stream this on a bunch of different locations. Also Plank Sip, Interfaith Library. So this show that I'm going to share, the sneak peek, will air this coming Sunday, 7 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Eastern. Nikki, thank you so much. If you have time to stick around right after this, we can spend a couple of minutes just comparing notes and making sure that we're connected and I have what I need to connect anyone that reaches out to me. But for the rest of you, remember, you are created in the image of God, and He loves His creation. Hello, everyone. It's Wade Franson, and I'm back with a sneak peek for next week's Sunday show on the Created in the Image of God. I have a lovely young lady in the studio with me today. I'm so honored to have her here, Alicia Lee. We've just met, and she shared with me parts of her story. Really touched my heart because her mission and vision is to share the love of God through her unique personal circumstances. And indeed, she does. She just really helped me, sadly, in her raw honesty way, relive the trauma of recently losing my sister, while also reliving the knowledge that God loves her, rushed out to meet her in that moment of trauma, and they're reunited now. Welcome to the studio, Alicia.
Thank you, Wade. I'm so happy to be here. We've just had such a wonderful conversation, and it's just been such a pleasure being here in the studio with you today.
Well, and I'm excited for you to share your journey with the audience. Share with them now in this sneak peek, by way of a teaser, what it was that led you to realize that the trauma that you personally experienced could be a means to help others.
Yeah, I'm so excited to share my full story, but to answer your question, when I started writing my book, I felt like I was just writing for myself. I felt like I was writing to kind of articulate some of the things that I had experienced and some of the things that had happened to me and some of the trauma that I had gone through. And as I kept writing, I felt God tugging at my heart, telling me that I needed to share my story, that my story was impactful, and that I could reach and touch people's lives with it. So I kept writing, and there were so many times where I felt like I wanted to give up because it was hard and I couldn't get some of the words out. But as I kept writing and kept turning my thoughts to God, I felt his hand guiding me, and I knew that this work was what he wanted to be done. And I'm just so humbled and honored at the number of people who have reached out to me and have poured their souls out to me, telling me how much my story has touched their lives, and that they were in tears reading it, and that they might not have gone through the same thing, but that they found the hope and the joy that my message offered.
Was there a time when you felt like the situation was so bad that you would never get out of it, that God couldn't or wouldn't want to really help you? And what changed, if that were true?
Yes, absolutely. At my lowest of lows, which I'm sure we'll get to, I just remember thinking, this is my life and I'm defeated, and it was probably all my fault to begin with. I should have listened to the signs. I should have seen the red flags, and this is my life. And I guess this is what I deserve. And this is just what I'm going to have to make peace with. But at that moment where I was just lying on my bathroom floor in tears and defeated, I felt a tug, another tug on my heart, telling me that this is not what God meant when he said that he wants me to live an abundant life. When he talks about living an abundant life, that this was not an abundant life, that there was more for me. This was not going to be my whole life. And I remember in that moment just having like a burst of courage that one way or another that I would get out of this trauma and this dark hole that I had found my way into, and that he would guide me, that he wanted so much more from me. This was not the life he envisioned for me, and that he would get me out of that situation.
Well, and indeed he has. And I'm so glad that you're here with us and that I have the opportunity to present you to my audience and have you share your story with them to inspire and educate them. So to that audience who's listening in here on this sneak peek, you don't want to miss this coming Sunday's show with Alicia Lee. And we'll explain why she has a different name here at that time. We won't get into it today. Just one of the many things that you will learn when you show up this coming Sunday at 7 a.m. Central Time, 8 a.m. Eastern for Created in the Image of God. We'll see you there.